morning. Welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Calvin Butenoff, coming to you live from our studio here at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us, call or text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Friday, March 14th. Today, the average price of a gallon of 2% milk in Wisconsin, $3.18, and the average price of a dozen large eggs in Wisconsin, $6.24. Both the same price as they were yesterday.
When I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
Coming up, we have a busy show today. Dan Schaefer will be here as he is every Friday. Next hour from the recombobulation area, also Civic Media's political editor, going to spend a little time talking about the debate between Brad Schimmel, Elon's guy, and Susan Crawford for the spot on the Supreme Court. The election is April 1st.
Yes.
If you're not registered, if you're not sure, if you don't know where to go, if you don't know who's on the ballot, there's one easy peasy place to go, Greg Bach.
Where is that, Jane?
myvote.wi.gov. myvote.wi.gov. Please make a plan to be a voter. Make it a thing.
Yeah.
Make it an event.
Voting's cool.
Talk to a couple of folks and go vote and then go to brunch or something.
Yeah, treat yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Give yourself a little reward. Take part in the process. Wisconsin, we really do. I think I heard Dan talking about this the other day on somebody's show, that Wisconsin really does turn out.
Yes, we do.
In comparison to other states.
Yeah.
But there's still room for improvement.
Always room for improvement. And, I mean, 2 years ago, we were in the same place, a Supreme Court race in spring. And, I mean, Wisconsin knocked out of the park for numbers for that kind of race.
Yes.
So let's see if we can't do the same, if not do better.
Yeah.
Come on now.
myvote.wi.gov. Be a voter, baby. Everybody who's anybody wants to be a voter. Wanted to start off with this. And if you are a veteran in particular and you've gotten services at the VA, and I know the VA is not perfect.
No.
The VA has had a lot of issues over the years, and we're aware of that and understand that.
Yeah.
But they still provide really necessary services for many, many folks.
Yeah.
And there's an article in today's Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel with Natalie Elbert and Mary Spacuzza with the byline, as cuts in uncertainty hobble VA clinics, Wisconsin leaders increasingly divided over Doge. So they start off with an email that was sent out to the staff at the Zablocki VA Medical Center in Milwaukee, talking about plans for coping with the loss of half of the members of its supply team in just the last couple of weeks. And the email started off with, "We need your help." Under a contingency plan created by the VA because of what Doge wants to do, effective immediately, staff at the VA were asked to retrieve medical instruments and supplies from the basement instead of going to the well-stocked units on their wing that are usually managed by supply technicians.
Gotcha.
So now they want to get rid of these supply technicians who supply the units on these floors so that when you need something, you go there and it's there. Now, instead, they have to go down to the basement. I've been in the VA a couple of times. I am not that well-versed with that building, but it's a big building.
It's a huge building.
It is.
And if your first instinct is to say, well, why don't you, it's fine. You just have the nurse go run down and do it. Well, first of all, that's not the nurse's job to go. That is a specific occupation, supply management, supply restock. Those. If a nurse needs to tend to someone who is in a bad place, if they're crashing a crisis, they don't have time to run downstairs to go get more stuff. You need people in place to make it flow properly. So getting rid of these individuals is going to put a lot of extra pressure in already tense situations.
The latest squeeze, again, according to this article in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, of an already depleted team of caregivers. And this, as you said, Greg, increases the risk of delayed patient care. A spokesman for the VA says the cuts will not harm veterans' care. Quote, the Zablocki VA Medical Center is meeting its supply chain requirements by delegating duties across the remaining staff. There is no negative impact to clinical operations and veteran care. Still, Republicans blasting these decisions, and You know who's checking in on this?
Who?
Wisconsin Senior Senator Ron Johnson.
Oh, he's very concerned.
Has he ever held a town hall?
No, in fact,
He's big on telephone town
Can I
halls.
tell you a very quick story?
Sure.
When I worked for the city of Racine back in the day, his staff was, I remember at least 3 times when they were supposed to hold constituent outreach. Not him. We knew that.
Just his staff.
But his staff, which is also important. They never showed up.
At all?
They would never show up. They would never show up.
Would they tell you they weren't going to come?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Sometimes we just walk in the room, there was nobody in there. Sometimes they'd be like, we can't make it. Great, cool deal. But don't worry, folks. Ron Johnson's concern is on the move. Concern is high on the top of his list.
Yep.
He's concerned about his concern.
He's concerned. Ron Johnson dismissed the VA's planned layoffs of as many as 83,000 workers in an event at a WIS politics event. He said it's just a report, and the cuts haven't happened yet. Ron Johnson said everybody, bipartisan basis, will vote for funding veterans to the point where we overfund it. Ron Johnson said the VA is not a particularly efficient organization. I don't think anybody disagrees that there are efficiencies to be found, but that doesn't mean that you come in with a chainsaw in order to uncover these deficiencies. Ron Johnson says one thing you don't have to worry about being underfunded is support for veterans. Doesn't happen. He said the VA receives substantial funding, and that is not going to change. 855-752-4842. If you are a veteran, if you have gotten care at the VA, I would love to hear from you. Seriously, 855-75-CIVIC. Give us a call, send in a text. Let us know what you think.
Will this be like the Linda McMahon statement, 1,300 people fired from Department of Education, then all that money will flow into the schools throughout the states? Or are they going to fight? It said 87,000?
83,000.
83,000 people fired. Will that money then be redistributed for veterans care in some way? I don't think so, because usually when you cut and get rid of. You don't redistribute it or reallocate it. It's just going to be gone.
Well, that money needs to go so that Elon could get another tax cut.
Yeah, let's.
That's what this is all about. 855-752-4842. Bill from Oconomowoc on the line. Good morning, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Great topic as always. I'm wondering, and maybe I'm got my rose-colored glasses on, but maybe the best thing that happened to the administration was that the judicial system is holding them accountable. And the best thing about them holding them accountable for Trump will ignore them. And that's good for us, because then we are going to have a cleansing or a meet Jesus meeting. And the more he ignores and doesn't follow, the more laws he breaks. The more laws he breaks, the more vulnerable he becomes. James Santella's talked about this. Mm-hmm. And now he's super vulnerable. What do you guys think? Do you think there's a lot of hope now? Because 110, I think, of his bills have been stopped. What do you guys think?
Well, what concerns me, Bill, is, the courts can say, no, you can't do that. What is the step to enforce that he follows those rulings? Mm-hmm. That's my concern. Well, and who's going to make him follow the law? Because we know Republicans in Congress aren't going to do it.
And I personally, and I've said this before, is I think he's going to make all these grand gestures, and as the courts say no, he gets to stand there and say, well, I tried. We tried to do that, and the court said no. And they're not on your side. I'm on your side. So he can say he's going to do something. He doesn't have to do something and hurt people, and he gets to blame someone else.
Well, he's big on blame.
If he goes ahead and does stuff that the court has blocked him to do, then then there need to be consequences. But let's face it, we live in an almost consequenceless world now.
If you got enough money.
But I just think that he wants to say he's going to do these things, and the courts will stand up and be his perfect patsy on it.
It's their fault.
It's their fault. The courts won't let me do it. I wanted to do all these things for you, the American people, but the court said no. But I love you more than the courts.
Yeah, Mr. President, I don't take responsibility for anything, Trump.
Nothing.
Jean from Eau Claire on the line. Good morning, Jean. Thanks for joining us.
Hi. I just wanted to call and let you know there is an example of Ron Johnson trying to hold an online town hall that he called on Wednesday. at 4:30. Just prior to this great event that Civic Media hosted. And I had to wait for a while, and I thought, nope, I want to listen to this great event that Civic Media outstandingly provided for all the people in the community instead of listening to a pre-recorded, you could be pre-recorded or it could be live. But stay on the line, and I thought, nope, Civic Media is more important. Thank you very much. And you guys have a great weekend. Thank you for your service to our state and really to our country. Keep up the great work.
Thank
Bye.
you so much, Gene. Have a great weekend. Really appreciate you checking in.
Yeah.
Always appreciate you and your listenership, too.
I always feel like I should say, she does not work for Civic Media. She's just a fan.
And Gene, I'm going to give you my personal phone number so you just can call me on weekends and make me feel better.
Jane, you're doing a great job. You're so wonderful, and everyone loves you, and it's great.
Don't listen to the haters, Jane. It's okay. We will continue this conversation, again, talking about cuts at the VA. Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson says, nothing to see here. It's all overfunded because no matter what happens, veterans get bipartisan support, but now it's overfunded.
I want to know what do you mean by overfunded?
They have too much money.
Too much money.
Too much money, Greg.
Oh my gosh, these veterans are just swimming in dollars.
And obviously taking advantage.
These doctors who decide to work for the VA, a very shiny, very famous place to work. They're just driving Lamborghinis, buying their second home.
Yeah.
Overfunded.
We're going to continue this. If you would like to join the conversation, 855-752-4842. Stay close. You are listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. We'll be right back.
Just don't know what else to do about it.
Good morning. Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Sweet Gal B, coming to you live from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us, call or text at 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform shedding more users than a husky blowing its winter coat. Talking about cuts at the VA, Senator Ron Johnson, senior senator from Wisconsin, says, don't worry about it. There's plenty of funding for veterans to the point where we overfund it.
Okay.
Also, this article today, burn pit funding for veterans on chopping block in GOP spending bill.
Someone called Jon Stewart right now.
I know. Jon Stewart, who spent years advocating and going to Congress, and men who had cancer going in front of members of Congress asking for this funding. And now, thanks to Doge, now burn pit funding for veterans is on the chopping block. And you may say to yourself, what if I want to contact Doge and let him know that I'm unhappy with these cuts?
Do you know who had the same idea?
Who?
Wisconsin Representative Congressman Mark Pocan.
I believe, Calvin, we have some sound from Representative Pocan about getting in touch with Doge per the recommendation of Derek Van Orton from Wisconsin's 3rd District. Let's play that clip from Representative Pocan, please, Calvin.
You might have heard yesterday Derek Van Orden had a telephone town hall with about 24 hours notice in the middle of the day in lieu of having an in-person public town hall. But in answering questions, he showed exactly why he doesn't want to have in-person public town hall. He was asked about people who are being fired. He gave a strange answer about it's not Doge that's firing them, it's the agencies. But he said if you want to find out about someone who shouldn't have lost their job, you should contact Doge. Okay, ignore the idiocy of that answer. We tried today to find out on their website. So as a member of Congress, not a member of the public, trying to find out about someone who's been fired, we couldn't get that number off the Doge website. Then we tried the Congressional Research Service website that has all kinds of White House liaisons that I can contact, but not the average person. They had no phone number or email for Doge. Finally, we had to call the White House switchboard, and they said they'd get back to us in 10 minutes. They didn't, so we tried back, and still they failed to get in touch with anyone or any number for Doge. And finally, we asked for a number to the White House Ledge Affairs so that we could request a meeting between myself and someone at Doge. And they literally just said that there is no one that you can speak to, and they didn't provide anything.
No one you can speak to, no way to contact him. The administration of transparency. But you can't talk to anybody. That's okay, I guess.
Well, I mean, what did you expect? The information came from Derek Van Orden. Like, they think the guy actually has up-to-date info on anything. He doesn't want to talk to people. He only lives in one mode, that is confrontation. And I bet you him having to answer questions without having to yell at people was tough for him to do.
No doubt.
So, of course, he's going to just lie off the seat of his pants and say, contact them. Yes, 1-800-USA-DOGE. There's the number, folks.
Well, and I love the fact that he says it is not Doge's responsibility that these cuts are happening. It's the head of it's the agencies that are making these cuts.
Yes.
But if you want to complain about the cuts, you should call Doge. Yet there is no way to do that. You can't get in touch with Doge. Mark Pocan, a member of Congress, can't get anyone to talk to him from Doge. But it's all good. They're so transparent about everything. It's just crystal clear.
Don't say anything at all.
Just don't speak.
You know what? I can't believe I'm going to say this. Derek Van Orden, don't do any town halls. It's not worth your time. You're just going to get upset and yell at probably a child. I mean, what would he expect to happen? And I would love to see if Mark Pocan's going to just get up from his desk, walk over to
knock
Derek
on
Van
some
Orden.
doors.
Hey, Derek, I tried that number. Do you have one that I don't know about? Did you get a special number because your fans?
Maybe it's a super secret number.
Maybe it's a super GOP number.
855-752-4842 if you would like to join our conversation. Cornell from Merrill is on the line with us. Good morning, Cornell. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for covering this. Yeah, I'm a Vietnam era veteran, and I get care at the Schofield Rothschild VA clinic, and they are outstanding. They treated my fever. I had a bad fever. I had to go into the hospital. I had a skin problem. I had to have an operation. They treated that, and a month ago I couldn't even walk. So they took care of that, and they gave me a brace. It's just outstanding. And then we get all our COVID vaccinations there, and they have a great mental health care there with this post-traumatic depression. Soldiers are coming back, and they're getting outstanding care there. It's just outstanding. And if they cut that clinic, I have to drive all the way to Madison to get my care.
And thank you for your service, Cornell. And I can't imagine all that you've had to deal with, seriously. And how do you feel when you hear them say they want to cut 83,000 positions from the VA? How does that make you feel?
Well, I was so upset that it's just terrible. And Senator Johnson, he's just a yes man for Trump, and he's just it's just terrible because we served. We have Korean veterans, we have Vietnam veterans, and we have Afghan veterans, and it's just terrible. It's just mind-boggling, and I hope people get out to vote to get the right people into office. And it's just quite upsetting. I called my office, and I was so upset. Then they called me back, and they said, "Do you need some help to talk to somebody about it?"
Yeah.
They are just outstanding here in Rothschild. The nurses and the doctors, they are so dedicated, and it's not an easy job. I was in the Naval Medical Corps, and I know what it is to care for people, and they're just dedicated to taking care of us. And every time I go into the building, there's 20 people there that need help, and they're older than me.
Cornell, we're right up against the break. I don't mean to cut you off. Thank you so very much for calling and sharing your perspective and
Please,
sharing
thank
your
you very
experience.
much.
It really makes a huge difference. We do have news coming up next, but we'll continue our conversation on the other side. Stay close. You are listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. good morning and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, the board lord, coming to you from our studio here at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us. You can call, you can text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Right before we went to the news, we were talking about impending cuts courtesy of Doge, which, by the way, Mark Paucand found out, even as an elected official, you can't reach anybody from them.
No.
You can't talk to anybody from Doge. There's no phone number. There's no contact person. There's no nobody.
There's no email, no nothing.
But they're all about accountability
I guess you could.
and transparency.
Can I DM them?
I don't think, well, you can try.
Yeah.
Yes, so they're talking about cutting 83,000 workers from the VA.
Mhm.
And we have been asking for veterans to check in and what this would mean for you. And granted, the VA is not perfect and has been having issues for a long time. But it doesn't seem to me that getting rid of 83,000 people is going to help with efficiencies.
No.
That seems kind of working backwards. But don't worry about it, says senior Senator from Wisconsin, Ron Johnson. He's dismissed the VA's planned layoffs by calling it just a report. And the cuts haven't happened yet. And he said that he suggested bipartisan support for the VA is strong to the point that the VA is bloated. Too much. They got too much.
Yep.
Too much help. 855-752-4842. John from Hubertus texting in. A year ago, I met a guy at a tavern in Menomonee Falls. He lived in Mequon, but he had to go to Madison, the Madison VA hospital, to get assistance. So, again, can it be more efficient? Probably. Is the way to do that cutting 83,000 jobs?
It certainly doesn't seem like the right path to treat a group of people who this country
Claims
to love. And when I say this country, let me be clear. I'm talking about the politicians who tweet and post and do videos
on Veterans
how
Day.
much we no. You know what? For every one video, take it down. Do one thing for them. How about that instead? Do something instead of tweeting about how much you love them. Actually,
do something.
Help them.
Yeah. 855-752-4842. Tim from Eau Claire has been very patient. Thank you for joining us, Tim. What do you want to say about this?
Yeah, well, your previous caller there mentioned something that I think people are overlooking. A lot of these veterans and stuff have PTSD, and their mental capacities might be affected. I think, and I'm not condoning it, but I think you might see some of these people resort to violence against some of these people. Sad to say, but it could happen. That's all I got to say.
I mean,
Well, I certainly hope you're wrong, Tim.
Yeah.
I do, and thank you for checking in. I don't want to see anyone attack.
No,
I don't want to see Tesla dealerships burned.
I don't think that's. I mean, I don't think that's what Tim means. I think what
Just the frustration.
but unchecked, unhelped mental illnesses can end up harming people. We've seen it so many times with the mass shootings in this country, and these vets, if they're not getting help and they suffer from PTSD, the likes that most of us will never understand.
Absolutely.
And if there isn't help for them, where are they going to go? And a lot of them end up on the street.
We have a lot of homeless veterans. It can't be more than 5 years ago that we were talking about 12 was the number.
22.
Was it 22? 22 veterans a day were committing suicide.
Yeah.
855-752-4842, talking about potential cuts. Right now, according to Ron Johnson, don't worry, it's just a report.
Don't worry, they're not going to gut Medicaid.
Don't worry, and the VA is kind of bloated anyway because who doesn't support the VA? Ollie from the Northwoods is on the line. Good morning, Ollie. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, I'm not a vet, but I'm a daughter of an Army brat. My dad was in the service for 22 years, and my mother spent just short of a year at Walter Reed Army Hospital with cancer and other complications.
and my dad was in the hospital towards the end of her stay. And if it hadn't been for the veteran doctors and the Army doctors, both my parents would have been dead at that time. And I just want to say that I think the cuts are terrible. And I challenge Ron Johnson to put his money where his mouth is. Go out and do something about it rather than just say, oh, don't worry about it. What is he actually doing for the veterans? Is he actually going and talking to the vets? Is he actually going and making sure that things are okay at the Veterans Affairs? His phone number is 202-224-5323.
Go get him, Ollie. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that. And call.
Absolutely.
Call. That's myvote.wi.gov. Put in your address. Every contact phone number is in there for all of your representatives.
Yeah.
Take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Are they going to respond to you? No. But I don't know what other way to let them know that their constituents are not happy with what they're doing, because they're not showing up anymore. They certainly don't want to see people face to face.
No, Ron Johnson's not coming to to various locations around the state.
He's in Florida.
Yeah, it's and the whole thing that really I made the mention of Medicaid before. I wanted to clarify something. This is how it all starts. They say we're not going to do anything, but then they're voting on cuts on various programs, and the VA is just one of them. It's been a program they wanted to cut for years.
855-752-4842. We are talking about potential cuts at the VA, talking about 83,000 workers. Ron Johnson says, don't worry about it. Right now, it's just a report. And besides, the VA's bloated anyway. Linda from Wisconsin Rapids is on the line. Good morning, Linda. Thank you for joining us. What do you want to say about this?
Well, I'm a vet. I served as a Navy nurse for 28 years. And what they don't understand is a lot of these programs are intermingled. I worked at Walter Reed Bethesda. NIH has helped our oncology units. The staff goes in between NIH and Walter Reed. A lot of these research projects and stuff are so intermingled. And they don't realize if you cut one, you're cutting a lot of other programs and a lot of other patients.
That's a great point, Linda. It really is. That's a wonderful point. NIH is the National Institutes of Health.
Yeah.
And I can see, of course, they're going to be intertwined with VA and giving veterans medical services. That just makes sense.
Well, not to mention the fact that any sort of work that the VA does with other hospital systems, I mean, when those ties are cut, they're gone. And it's once again this thing of Doge coming in with a chainsaw and not thinking about any of the repercussions afterwards, because you need to feel the pain, people.
Yeah.
We need to cut it down.
Just for 2 years.
Just for 2 years
of pain. Thank you so much, Linda, for calling, and thank you for your service.
Thank you, Linda.
Greatly appreciated. Stephen from Green Bay is on the line. Good morning, Stephen. Thanks for joining us.
I think we just need to stop pretending that Trump is actually trying to do anything positive in office. I saw these cuts coming a long time ago. I mean, he called these people suckers and losers in his last administration. I'm not surprised that he's trying to cut their funding now. Really what it comes down to is him peddling to his base, and his base wants one thing, and that's small government, and he's going to give that to them, no matter how many other people it hurts in the process.
I hear you, Stephen.
Yep.
It's really upsetting. It is. And I don't want his supporters to suffer.
Yeah.
I don't want Trump supporters to suffer, but this is affecting all of us. These cuts are affecting all of us. Mm-hmm. And yet now we're apparently going after the group that both sides love to use when it's to their advantage, our veterans. And I'm sure veterans have sick of lip service from both sides.
Well, veterans, small business owners, Native Americans, farmers, all these people that politicians love to go and talk and say, these individuals, they're the backbone. They're the reason why we're here. They're the reason why America's great. And then they'll do everything they can to turn around and just Screw them. There it is. I didn't want to say it, but I'm going to say it. And then they say it's for the good of the country. No, it's for the good of that 1% who wants that tax cut.
That big tax cut, because they're really struggling. Rich people are having a tough time.
A tax cut that will not benefit you at all.
Penny from La Crosse texting in, listening on WLCX. Ron Johnson's number is constantly a busy signal. That tells me something. Keep it up. Keep it up, Penny. 855-752-4842. Jim from Chicago is on the line. Good morning, Jim. Thank you for joining us. What do you want to say about this?
Good morning. Yeah, I don't know how I'm picking you up here, but I'm in the Hancock Tower, and there you go. There you are. So, yeah, I've been listening to this. You know, there's a lot of misunderstandings in what's going on, I think. First off, so many things seem to be arbitrated and taken care of on the federal level, and that's where you get a lot of bloat. I think we could probably all agree that if they kick some of these things down to the state levels, like education, et cetera, and get rid of things on the federal level, that would give the people more ability to have more local input. And like the founding fathers suggested, it would allow the states to take on their own color, their own identity more, rather than be subsumed in the federal board. So I think some of these cuts are really important. The other thing that we need to really look at here is what Musk is doing is he's going through AI and he's cutting out redundancies, replication, et cetera. And that's a feature of bureaucracy that has kind of moved beyond or behind the technocracy that we're moving into. And so I think a lot of these cuts are justified. Yes, it's true. They rely, you know, they are people and they're working and they have jobs and things, but there's actually 10 million jobs available out in the economy right now that they can simply go to. How many people?
I'm sorry, sir. I'm going to stop you right there. That statement right there. That statement right there. They can't just simply go find a new job. When you've been let go from a job, especially like a government job, you're most likely been there for a while. You've got a trained skill, a set of skills. They can't just walk out the door and be like, well, I guess I'll just go find a new job today.
Well, and thank you, Jim. I really do appreciate your perspective, and I do not disagree that there are places of overlap, and there are places where things can be cut and efficiencies can be found. But I still don't think coming in with a chainsaw and doing cuts that way without really looking at what these people are doing. And as far as what Elon is finding, we don't know what he's finding.
Yeah.
There is no transparency. There have been no reports issued. There has been they keep talking about all this fraud that they keep finding. Well, then we should see the people who are going to be standing trial for fraud.
Yeah.
So far, I haven't seen any.
If you go to the Doge website, it's just a recitation of their Twitter page and them making claims of catching all these different things. The receipts that were being put up are being taken down because they're done wrong. And I just really, really, really find it disingenuous to say, well, there's 10 million jobs out there, so you can just go find one. That's not
moving is expensive.
Finding a job even in your own hometown is hard. It's not easy unless you just want to walk into a low-skill job where you fill out an application, they say, you work here now. That's not how it works.
We'll continue this. Tom, I see you on the line. We will take you first when we get back. 855-752-4842. You are listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. We'll be right back.
Wait a minute, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, you gotta wait a minute, wait a minute. Oh, yeah. Check it and see one more time for me. You gotta wait a minute, wait a minute. Oh, yeah. Wait a minute, wait a minute. Oh, yeah. Mr. Postman. Oh, yeah. Deliver the letter. The sooner the better. You gotta wait a minute, wait a minute. Oh, yeah. Wait a minute, wait a minute.
Good morning. Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Dr. Slide on the board, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can join us, call or text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter, talking about reports that the VA could be laying off as many as 83,000 workers. Wisconsin Senior Senator Ron Johnson says, it's just a report. The cuts haven't happened yet. And, quote, everybody, bipartisan basis, will vote for funding for veterans to the point where we underfund it. Ron Johnson
Underfunded
said,
or overfunded?
Overfunded,
Yeah.
sorry. Rojo says the VA is not a particularly efficient organization. Again, I'm all about efficiencies and finding ways to do the same job for less, as long as the job keeps the same standard of service and care. But coming in with this, with a chainsaw, like he's been doing so far, doesn't seem to be the best way to go about this. And by the way, if you want to talk to someone from Doge, you can't.
No. DM them on Twitter.
Yeah.
That's about all you can do, if you can do that. Also, the other thing, too, is if it's going to be overfunded, that means that Ron Johnson and his colleagues suck at their job. Look at the bill. Go over with a fine-tooth comb.
They don't read the bills.
I know they don't, but figure out the inefficiencies in the markup process versus Doge coming in saying, we got this, sleeves coming up, and taking a chainsaw to jobs. But don't worry, Jane, 10 million jobs. Go find a new one.
Well, and again, Doge is all about, it's true, trust us.
Yep.
Just trust me.
Just fine.
855-752-4842. Tom from LA, thank you for your patience, Tom. We do have a couple other callers I'd like to get to, so if you can keep it brief, please.
Absolutely. Number one, the number of government employees in the last 50 years has not increased at all. So I don't know what they're talking about in terms of the government getting bigger. Second, FDR had the WPA system or WPS system in place where people didn't have a job, so you had them actually just filling potholes. But they were working. All these Republicans that want to see people working and not being lazy slugs on a couch, oh my God, here's your chance. You get a job, you're going to work. And the veterans themselves, a lot of the people in the Veterans Administration are actually veterans. So give me a break. And then last, I want to say, Jane, because everyone needs to know this, they need to call into their congressperson and they need to tell them that we need to shut this government down because there's a poison pill in the CR which says that the Republicans will cede all power to the executive branch. It's exactly out of the playbook of Project 2025, but basically they will cede the power. I sent you the video on it so you can check it out, where it shows that Randy Rhodes, who's a very, very reputable person, showed that yesterday, and everyone call and say, don't shut this down until we get an actual true CR, because this is insane that the Republicans are going to give all the power. It's called the.
I appreciate it, Tom. I do want to get to another caller. Thank you for that. I will check that out after the show. Kate from Western Wisconsin is on the line joining us now. Good morning, Kate. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you for your time and your programming. Just a couple of points that I think the average people don't recognize in this whole process by the GOP. Number one, the tariffs are really going to hurt the American farmer across the board.
Yep.
A lot of equipment comes from Canada. It's been a strong trading partner for years, and it's just so unnecessary to put small farmers, medium farmers, big farmers out of business in America. And the other thing, they want to privatize everything.
Yep.
That's why the gutting of the government is happening. Doge is in it, and specifically Musk is in it because he's gaining great access to all of our information. That includes everything from our buying power to our income, and that's power, and he's going to make billions off of our private information. And the same thing with the tariffs. I'll guarantee that a lot of our high politicians are inside knowledgeable about when these tariffs are going to happen. They're trading on the market and capturing the value in the trading. And it's just wrong. And these people that aren't answerable to the citizens they represent need to be called out on it.
Absolutely, Kate. Thank you so much. And hang on for what I was just going to say, too. about the tariffs. Now Trump officials are going all over Fox saying Canada hasn't been nice enough to us. Canada hasn't been grateful enough to us. Canada hasn't been polite enough. The fact that anyone from the Trump administration would talk about politeness and
Yeah.
gratitude makes me want to do a spit take. That is laughable.
Yeah.
Please, please don't try and teach the rest of us manners coming from the guy who insults disabled people and everyone else from top to bottom. I don't want to hear it. I don't have time for it. I don't have the patience for it. I have some expletives which I can't use because we are FCC compliant.
Tune in after the show. Just put your ear outside your window and listen to our new show. Jane screams curse words into the wind.
Oh, do you think that could be a set? Oh, we'll make it a podcast. Make a call.
Yeah.
Leave a message. myvote.wi.gov. That's going to bring up all the phone numbers that you need. Be polite. Don't swear. Join me later. We can all swear together. We have news coming up next. When we return, Dan Schaefer will be here from the recombobulation area. You are listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Cranky Radio Network. Good morning and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Calvin Butonoff coming to you live from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us. You can call, you can text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Brewers spring training continues. Crew taking on the Giants today at 3 o'clock. If you would like to listen in on your Civic Media Brewers affiliates, catch the game today on WRCE in Richland Center, WISS in Oshkosh, and WBZH in Hayward. The Crew and the Giants today, a little preseason action starting today at 3 p.m. He joins us every Friday at this time. The creator of the Recombobulation Area and also Civic Media's political editor, Dan Schaefer, is here. Good morning, Dan. Just a couple things we wanted to cover today.
A couple things going on in the Wisconsin news cycle right now. Yeah.
Going on. So there was the debates between Judge Susan Crawford and Elon's pick, Brad Schimmel, for the spot on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. What were your takeaways from that debate earlier this week?
Yeah, so I was at an event in Madison. We had an event, Protecting Justice for All was the name of the event, and we had a series of panel discussions, and it was all having to do with the Wisconsin Supreme Court race. I moderated a great panel on the economy with State Rep Francesca Hong, State Rep Supreme Moore Omakunde, Joe Zepecki, and Melissa Baldoff. So it was a really good group. I got lucky with a great panel. We have the full video for that at the Recombobulation Area, courtesy of our friends over at Up North News. So go check that one out. Lots of great discussions there. But afterwards, we had a watch party, a debate watch party, which I think is the type of thing only in Madison can you get, a couple hundred people together to get together for
not
a debate
sporting
watch
event.
party.
Yeah, not
exactly.
a sporting event, but a date, a debate. Yeah.
Nobody does civic engagement like the city of Madison. I'm expecting the turnout for them to be somewhere around like 95% or something like that, like usual. But it was really interesting to watch this debate with a live audience instead of just like watch it yourself and take notes and have reactions and all of that. And I thought that, there were a couple big standout moments, like when Judge Crawford used the Elon Schimmel line in the debate. Just seeing that reaction there, I think people were pretty enthused by how it went. And checking around after the fact, I think the Crawford camp is pretty thrilled with how that debate went as well. I thought she was very much, in command of the debate. It felt like she was the one dictating, kind of where the conversation was going. And you had Brad Schimmel really reeling, I think, in a lot of different instances. And you had him, not only avoiding like the more substantive questions about, his connection to Elon Musk, about abortion rights, about a whole number of different things. But what did you guys think of the fact that he couldn't even answer the softball questions at the very end of this? Did you guys take note of that too?
The one when he asked the question of when he was asked, can you think of any decisions that may have upset your supporters?
Yeah,
and just turn it, you should be able to punt better than that. Like like that just that loss of absolute, like, well, I have no idea because
that wasn't in his script.
Yeah,
that wasn't when they rehearsed it. That never came up, so he didn't know what to do with it.
Right. And even the things that like I expected to come up in the debate, like it seemed obvious that there was going to be a question about the case on the 2020 election results with the Trump campaign. Schimmel just seemed so flat-footed on that, the fact that question was even being asked. He it was just like, oh, did you agree with Justice Hagedorn and his decision and blah, 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 blah. He just seemed not really prepared for like some of the most obvious questions that were going to be asked in that debate.
Was he not prepared, or did he just really not want to answer or get anywhere near that question?
It seems like that's probably where it was, because it's just one of those things that like the base, the Republican base has been furious with Hagedorn since that decision. And I think he didn't want to upset that. And he's just trying to thread the needle on finding that support and delivering an answer. And I just don't think he was really able to. And I think in contrast, I think Crawford, he seemed to be 1,000 times more prepared for that debate than Schimmel.
Well, and I think too, Brad Schimmel's in kind of a tough spot because he tells one thing to people who are canvassing for him. He tells one thing to groups that he knows he's got the support of, and then when he goes in front of a more nonpartisan audience, it's like, oh, I gotta try and get back into the lane where I'm going to be acceptable because if I say what I really think, which is he still wants to go along with there were some twitchy things that happened with the 2020 election. Oh, it wasn't, I'm not sure. Oh, okay. Yeah. Again, he tells one things to people he knows are going to be on his side, and then another when he comes before the general public to make him more palatable.
That's such a great point, Jane. That's such a great point, and I think is indicative of the type of justice he could be on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Somebody who is saying something to his political allies one way and then saying something publicly another way. That seems like the exact quality you would not want from a Wisconsin Supreme Court justice.
Well, it seems like one you can absolutely have, though, too, because he can sit here and say things like, in his ad that you and I, Dan, discussed last week of, let's let the people decide. Well, I mean, even if it was up to the people, you can still say you're going to back the people's voice and do whatever you want, like the federal justices did. So I think it's just about skirting and skating along, because had he given an answer that wasn't if he was asked about the 2020 election and he would have given a more palatable response, I would hope that those two individuals who are running the debate was said, well, that's not what you said on the Vicki McKenna show. On the Vicki McKenna show, you said X, Y, and Z, because as you said, when he's around his people, he lets loose. There are quote, no flaws in the 1849 abortion ban.
Right.
If he was asked that night,
yeah, we might have gotten a vastly different answer. Cassandra on the live stream has a really good point. She says, this is a job interview question. Every interview I've had to prepare for included the question, what is some bad decision you made? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like when Eric Hovde was asked about the farm bill and he said, well, I don't know. I don't have the job yet, so I haven't read it. Are you kidding me?
That debate last night did kind of remind me of the debate between Baldwin and Hovde. Did you guys think of that too? Like, there was the moment where, I think Hovde did this last fall, and Schimmel was doing this in the debate, trying to go for this like gotcha moment, and she was just not having it. And there was the whole, I don't know, singer at the Bernie Sanders rally or whatever from last week. And trying to bring that up and like, okay, whatever. And she's just like, yeah, I disagreed with that too. And she blah, 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 blah. She seemed very sharp and ready to respond. And that, it reminded me of like when Tammy Baldwin had a strong moment in the debate last fall, when Hovde was over and over and over again trying to bait her into this answer and then not taking the bait, having this sharp response. I think it reminded me of that.
Well, the biggest indicator to me that Susan Crawford did well in this debate was the response I saw by a right-wing outlet yesterday, and their big criticism was that she didn't smile enough. I thought...
Jane, smile while you're saying this.
Can I reach the top of the tower and jump off of it? Seriously. That's was their big takeaway. She didn't seem very warm. She wasn't smiling. Women love being told that.
It's amazing that people are even still making those types of comments, right? You think of them as so antiquated and so out of touch, and then that's like their main message coming out of the debate. And
that's your gotcha?
Because if Brad Schimmel would have had a night on par with or better than Susan Crawford, that would have been the story. But by saying that, by making that moment happen, manufacturing a little outrage on your Twitter, that shows that your guy didn't do well that night. I mean, Brad Schimmel left. Susan Crawford stayed for the press. She answered questions. Brad Schimmel took off. He was gone. And I think personally too is like, it's been said, Brad Schimmel's been running for this job since Dan Kelly lost. And I think Brad Schimmel has enjoyed a year and a half of a touchless car wash. No one's talking. No one cares. We have a presidential election. We have all these things going on. And now that the focus is starting to come in and we're past the primary and we're starting to see Susan Crawford commercials and yard signs happen, we're starting to narrow in on the fact that Brad Schimel is sort of an empty suit with dozens of opinions on three things.
And I think Crawford's campaign is it seems to be peaking at the right time, right?
Yes,
and I thought she did really well in the debate. And I've, followed a number, like she's been on the airwaves here on Civic Media a number of times. And she has, given some public speeches and interviews and what have you. She was I attended one last week at the Rotary Club in Milwaukee that she spoke at, and that one was with real journalists as the moderators, Matt Smith from WISN, Emily Fannin from CBS 58, so people who are going to ask real substantive questions like what we saw in the debate as well. And she did really well there. She had real command of the room. She had command of the issues. She was, following up. She was explaining things. She was taking moments to really dig in and find when was the right time to do the kind of like longer answer on things. And that moment seemed to like kind of click for me. It's just like, okay, things are really clicking for her on the campaign. She's getting better at this. And I think, that was to me a prelude to how well she did in the debate. And she had that was the Crawford from last week's forum that I saw that showed up in the debate. And I think people who saw her then are going to have a really positive picture of what she could bring to the bench.
And I guess that's my next question, Dan, and we only got about a minute left, but did enough people see this debate? Do the people who need to see, they have no opinion on either of these candidates, did they see this debate?
That's always the question, right? But I think the debate is going to be fodder for, clips and ads and whatever else. I think the Crawford camp has a few things that they're going to be able to pull from that too.
When we return with Dan Schaefer, we're going to talk about the state superintendent race. Eric, I see you on the line. We will take you on the other side. Stay close. You are listening to Matenaer On Air on the Smiley Civic Media Radio Network. welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Calvi on the board, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. Join us, call or text at 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Coming up around 11:51, we will, as we always do, wrap up the show with a segment called This Shouldn't Be a Thing. Today, perhaps aptly, it's called the Bite Me Edition. I'm just in that mood today for some reason. So stick around for that. And if you ever have a thing you think should not be, send it in to Greg and me at janesays@civicmedia.us. Dan Schaefer is here, as he is every Friday, from the recombobulation area. Also, Civic Media's political editor. We were talking about the Supreme Court debate from earlier this week between Judge Susan Crawford, and Elon's pick, Brad Schimmel. Eric from Wauwatosa has been very patient, waiting to check in on this. Good morning, Eric. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say I did watch the debate, and I certainly would hope more Wisconsinites did, but I'm not really sure about that. But I think she crushed it, and she definitely looked "quote unquote" pleasant enough. I mean, we're talking about smiling for a judge. How many are known for their sense of humor, anyways? I've never seen a judge laugh in court in my life. So
Judge Judy,
answers.
Judge Judy would be the rare exception, but continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, speaking of the serious Supreme Court justices, I wouldn't want to see him laughing.
Right.
And besides, they always talk about like Scalia having a great sense of humor, and he was a horrible person. So let's leave it at that. So yeah, he was on the defense a lot, and he was simmering, it seemed, and he tried to interrupt her, and she was like, "I'm speaking, please." He just seemed very juvenile, I'll say. And she also actually said at the very end, they were talking about ethics, and Judge Crawford specifically said she would actually be open to tightening up the ethics rules. And he, of course, was like, "No way." She was even ethical in the questions. She wouldn't answer certain things with open cases and stuff, and he was blabbing away about it. But really quickly to talk about Ms. Kinzer, she interviewed this morning on Pat Kreitlow's show, and to me, she sounded pretty terrible. But her campaign is actually campaigning with the Schimmel campaign. They're giving out their yard signs at the same events. Moms for Liberty is there. I saw the what is it called? The John Birch Society tabling at the Brad Schimmel fundraiser that also had Brittany Kinzer stuff there. And Tom Tiffany was there and talked about how they had to, take care of this stuff for the good of Wisconsin and things. Also Hunter Nation and Elon Musk, he mentioned them actually stepping in and helping these races. So it's definitely a dangerous time right now in Wisconsin, and we've got to get together and support democracy and our kids by voting for Dr. Jill Underly. And no on the referendum, of course. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric. Really appreciate it. They're bringing back the John Birch Society? Geez, I did a speech about them in college. Look up the John Birch Society, folks, if you're not familiar.
Talk about party animals.
Wow.
I want to hear that speech. I want to hear Jane's speech.
I actually cribbed it from somebody else, and I think I got a B. So I know it was a bad thing to do. But anyway, in the remaining time that we have in this segment, Dan, let's talk about Brittany Kinzer. Brittany Kinzer was on Pat Kreitlow this morning on Up North News Radio, and you were there, Greg.
I was there.
She didn't have answers to a lot of things.
Well, I felt she was on the show for 2 segments. She spent the first segment of the show of her time there talking about her story, giving a really deep backstory. And Pat wanted to move it towards the applicability of what are you going to do in the job. So you did a reading program with a couple hundred kids, which is great. Teaching kids to read is awesome. How are you going to make that work at a macro level? And then there was some accusations of interrupting, and it didn't really get
So she never answered the question.
Never answered the question. Dan, what were your thoughts?
Well, first, I'm glad that she joined the show. Right?
Yes.
I'm glad that I think we at Civic Media broadly want to have more conversations with people we might not, be in complete lockstep with all the time. So I really do appreciate that she is coming on Civic Media. I think she's planning to be on the Earl Ingram show next week as well. So I'd look forward to that interview in addition to that. And, this is kind of this whole race is kind of strange, right? It's this undercard to the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, which is now the most highest spending ever in a race. So I think, so
Yeah.
many of the outcomes of the state superintendent race are going to be tied to what's happening in the state Supreme Court race. But at the same time, I think voters really want to hear from what these candidates have to say. People want to hear, Brittany Kinzer is like, she's not a really well-known person statewide.
Right.
Like we saw this in the Marquette poll last week. So, important to hear in her background, important to hear those types of things as well. But I think people want to know where these candidates stand on the issues. And I think that goes for Kinzer and that goes for Underly as well. I think, I'm not sure if there's going to be a public debate on this. I hope there is over the next couple weeks.
Not much
We
time
shall
left.
see. Not a
Yeah.
whole lot of time left. But I think this is one of those races where the people who are paying attention really do want to hear what these candidates have to say. So hopefully there will be more opportunities to do that in the coming weeks.
Well, and I just want to remind folks again, Elon Musk is pouring in millions and millions and millions of dollars into this race because, at least in my estimation, there is a possibility that a court case involving Tesla dealerships could work its way up to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And gosh, if you're Elon and you got millions on the line, you want somebody there who's going to be friendly to your cause. So don't forget, Brad Schimmel is Elon's guy. He is Elon's pick.
There was a great piece from a friend of Civic Media, Ari Berman, who writes at Mother Jones. He wrote a piece on the Wisconsin Supreme Court race saying that this is a referendum on Elon Musk, that this race in Wisconsin in this moment is a referendum on Elon Musk. It's a referendum on Doge. It's a referendum on these sweeping cuts and the wrecking ball that Elon is taking to the federal government. And I think that is kind of emerging as the dominant issue in this race in so many ways.
Talk to your friends. Talk about it. Share what you know. This is what we always say. If people aren't, not everyone is in tune or spends as much time on this as people like us. That's a whole nother show. Share what you know. We're going to continue our conversation with Dan Schaefer when we return. We're going to lighten things up a little bit for the last half hour of the show. Stick around. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Wheels up and we'll be rocking. Getting out of frozen Wisconsin. I need you to recombobulate me. I want you to recombobulate me. I need you to recombobulate me. Won't somebody recombobulate me?
Good morning and welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and Dr. Slide on the board, coming to you from our studio here at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us. The number is the same if you want to call or text. It's 855-752-4842. You can leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform that Elon continues to actively ruin. He joins us every Friday at this time from the recombobulation area. Also, Civic Media's political editor, Dan Schaefer, is here. We're going to lighten things up a little bit. The last half hour of the show, we like to call it Audio Sorbet. So we can take a cleansing breath. I think it's important. And we know what's going on. And we know how crazy things are.
We've been talking about it for 90 minutes.
I still think it's important to find a place to have a laugh.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't, because otherwise I will throw myself from the tower, and I would really rather not do that. It's important to have a laugh.
Yeah.
And it's important if you are looking for a job,
Whoa.
say, go to civicmedia.us/careers. Civic Media is growing, and we would love to have you grow with us. We're looking for sales reps. We're looking for producers. When I first started here and I was producing for Kristen Bry, I learned an entirely new skill set when I started, and I had so much fun. Seriously.
Mm-hmm.
You can be a producer, news reporters. There's a broadcasting company that just fired a whole bunch of people. If you are on the beach, as we say in the biz, if you're on the beach and you would like to get back into it, civicmedia.us/careers. We're looking for news people. We're looking for sales people. Check it out, civicmedia.us. I don't know where it comes from. On the beach. I don't know.
I love it, though. I love insider baseball talk, things like that. You know, like we're on the beach.
Insider radio
are you
talk.
are you going to go swimming? I'm on radio. What does that mean? I don't know.
Anyway, we wanted to talk.
Speaking from experience, it is wonderful to have Jane and Greg as coworkers. Coworkers.
Stop it.
Thank you.
Just
come join the team.
multi-award-winning Dan Schaefer giving us compliments.
We appreciate that, Dan. We love having you with us. And you are a relatively new part of Civic Media.
That's right. And I come join us. We are growing. This is like, there's nothing like this anywhere. And I think that is part of what's so exciting about being part of Civic Media. So
Absolutely. What our founder and owner Sage Weil is doing has never been done before. It truly is unique and special and rare. And for folks who are listening, we appreciate your support more than you could possibly know. It really makes a difference. And for spreading the word about us.
Yep.
Because we are not a broadcasting company that has a 40, 50-year legacy to just where everybody knows who we are. So if you can spread the word about Civic Media, we really thank you for that. Okay, we're going to lighten it up. And this just broke this morning. I don't know if this is good or bad. I have a feel. I don't know.
You're hesitant?
I am hesitant. They're bringing back Ted Lasso for season 4.
Yeah. That's not news, though. Like, they said they've been doing, like...
I didn't think this was going to happen, or I thought it was going to happen with just a few of the characters, and now it looks like Jason Sudeikis is going to come back.
We have a clip of him talking on the Kelsey Brothers podcast about it. Calvin, can you play that clip for us?
Ted Lasso fans, man, thank you, because that is gold.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Is there season 4? Is it in the works?
Are we allowed
I don't
to
know
say
what
that?
I'm allowed to ask.
I think you can ask it. Yeah, that's what we're writing. We're writing season 4 now. Yeah, that's the official word. Yeah, Ted's coaching. Yeah, the women's team. So there.
That's happening. Women's team.
Yeah.
Is he coming back to the States or?
Yeah, that's too many questions. But
All right. We'll leave it at that.
And it's only because I don't know.
So Ted Lasso is coming back for season 4, but this kind of works into our, should we do it? Maybe not.
I just want to have as many of the old cast come back as possible, because if you don't have a Roy Kent or a Nate or even oh God, the bass player, the guy who
Higgins, gotta have
like
Higgins.
I feel like all of them have to come back.
You got to get the band back together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or it's not going to be the same. So what other things would you be hesitant about seeing as a remake?
Yeah.
Like, don't do it. Just don't do it. Bad idea. The original was perfect. Why would you try and make it better when you can't.
Yeah.
For me, it would be The Princess Bride. I never want to see them try to do a remake of A Princess Bride. Don't do it.
You want who else? You know who else doesn't want it? Every living cast member of the
Of that-
Princess Bride
of that movie.
Yeah, they are vehemently against the idea.
It's a perfect movie.
Yeah,
it cannot be made better.
Yeah.
Do you have one, Dan?
That's a good question. If there's one that I would not, I generally don't really like the remakes in general.
Yeah.
Like I and bringing something back. But I will say, because there's been kind of like talk of it in like the sitcom stuff, I would not like anything to be brought back to like redo 30 Rock. I love 30 Rock.
Yeah.
Tina Fey, Tracy Morgan, that Alec Baldwin,
Yeah.
that group. Like, there's always like there's Parks and Rec or Office or like whatever types of things. And like I think The Office kind of lasted a little bit longer than it maybe should have.
Mhm.
And things get so, and I think 30 Rock was just kind of a perfect show. And as they kind of like talk about rebooting like everything on
Yeah.
Peacock or whatever, that's an NBC show. Let's leave 30 Rock alone.
Don't do it. Just don't do it.
What they did with a show like Night Court is, well, because now only 2 of the original members of the classic cast are alive, but they just said, all right, here is the judge's daughter. She is a judge as well. And here's the show from this point of view. It's not like a remake. It's not a reboot. It's just a continuation. It's a legacy show. I have more interest in things like that, because at least you can tell new stories in the same universe, but I would never want to see them try to remake a Parks and Rec. I don't think you can. And I don't even think you could do a legacy show version of it, because all of those individuals now are superstars in some. You cannot get them all back together unless they're doing like what they do with I think I was just telling this to Calvin yesterday, is this new form of TV where when we were younger, TV was September to May, 22 episodes. You had your reruns. You could watch it on DVD. But now what they do is these shows that even on network television, they're 13 episodes.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not
it's not enough.
That maybe if you're HBO, but like I don't want to watch a 13 episode season of Parks and Rec. Certainly not like any other, like a 30 Rock too. So leave those alone. Leave them alone.
855-752-4842. Don't do it. Just don't do it. What should they not try and remake? We know they are going to have a season 4 now of Ted Lasso. Please don't screw it up. Please don't screw it up. Robert from McFarland texting in, listening in Madison on WMDX. Please don't remake Cheers.
Yeah.
You couldn't. No. Because you have to have Norm. And right?
Yeah.
You got to have. What about Woody, the bartender? And as you said, Woody Harrelson is just way beyond.
He's an Academy-nominated actor now. He couldn't do a sitcom like that. Like,
right.
I don't do Cheers. Cheers is a great show. Cheers actually ages really well, because some of the topics in the first season of Cheers, they take on homosexuality as like acceptance or denial. Even on Night Court, there's an episode where Dan's best friend from college is trans, and that's like 1983.
Wow.
So some of these shows, really, we don't need to redo them. Cheers, just watch Cheers on Peacock. By the way, we're not paid by Peacock.
Yep.
This is not an ad for Peacock. I wouldn't mind getting that Peacock money, but come on.
Eric from Tosa, we were just talking about Civic Media hiring. If Civic Media would hire me, I work cheap. I'd help spread the word even more. Just saying. His quick answer, say anything. Movie with John Cusack.
Correct, with the boombox.
With the boombox.
I've never seen that movie.
I haven't ever seen that movie either.
Yeah.
855-7. It's fine. 855-752-4842. Don't do it. Just don't do it. What movie, what TV show should they not try and remake?
I think for me, my choice, like everyone has had their choices and I either agree or disagree, but I think for me, the big one would probably be the movie Clue.
That's another movie I have never seen.
It is a Jane.
Who's in that?
Oh my gosh. Strap in.
Okay.
We got Tim Curry. We got Madeline Kahn.
Oh.
Martin Mull, Christopher Lloyd, Leslie Ann Warren, Colleen Camp. We got Michael McKean. It's a murderer's row of comedy in one movie. And it plays along with the board game enough to make sense that it's called Clue, but it's not absolutely inherent to know the board game, to like the movie. And this is, I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, everybody, what's happening now with studios is that they're taking these IPs that originally bombed in theaters or on TV, and because they have a cult status and people love them, they're like, well, people love the movie Willow. Let's make a TV show.
Yeah.
That TV show bombed so bad, they took it off Disney Plus. You can't even watch it now. So leave Clue. It bombed in the movie theaters. It got big on VHS. Let Clue be Clue. Ryan Reynolds, I'm talking to you right now.
Let it lie. Let it lie.
Yeah.
Jake from Madison, listening on WFHR. Don't reboot Ferris Bueller's Day Off or The Breakfast Club. Appreciate that, Jake. Listener on WGBW, please don't remake Goonies.
No.
There was talk about it. Just no.
They've talked about a remake and they've talked about a sequel. Don't do either. Just leave it alone. Just leave it alone.
There have to be more original ideas in Hollywood, aren't there? Apparently not.
It doesn't seem like there's enough. It's always remakes or sequels. We got to get more original stuff. Here's one that was in the news this week, too, that I'm curious what you guys think about. They're making a Spinal Tap 2.
No! That's a terrible idea. No!
Shut it down!
They put a trailer out. It is one of my favorite comedies. I love This Is Spinal Tap. There are scenes from that movie. Doesn't matter how many times I have watched it, I am going to fall out of my chair laughing at the Stonehenge scene every single time.
I don't think the
For the
problem was that
41st anniversary, they're making This Is Spinal Tap 2.
Oh my God.
That's a terrible
One of the greatest
idea.
lines from that movie. I don't think the problem was that the audience wasn't into it. I think the problem was that there was a Stonehenge in danger of being crushed by a dwarf.
Trod on by a dwarf. Couple more I want to share coming in on the text line. Sally in Mequon listening on WAUK. The redo of Frasier, in my opinion, was awful.
It's infuriating because there are tiny speckles of moments of the old brilliance in there. Just totally, because the thing is, that was an NBC show in prime time. Now it's a CBS show that I think they canceled that was on Paramount Plus, and it's 10 episodes.
You can't do it without Niles.
Oh no, Niles wanted nothing to do with it.
You can't
and
do
they
that.
even tried bringing in all like these old people. Lilith was on. It doesn't matter. Just don't.
Liz from Saukville listening on WAUK. Don't remake the Golden Girls.
Too late.
I mean, come on, replacing Betty White? You can't.
They're doing it with aging gay men.
No.
Yeah.
Scott, listening on WMDX in Madison. Don't remake Land of the Lost. And while I will watch Spinal Tap 2, it will be lame.
Yeah.
You're taking the bullet for all of us, Scott. We appreciate that.
I'm gonna watch Spinal Tap 2. I'll watch it.
It just makes me sad. Now I want to watch it over the weekend.
Yeah, turn it up to 11, Jane. Turn it up to 11.
Turn it up to 11. Dan Schaefer is here. Thank you so very much. When we return, we will wrap up the show as we always do with This Shouldn't Be a Thing. Today it is the Bite Me edition. Don't go away. You're listening to Matenaer On Air on the Civic Media Radio Network.
My biggest mistake was loving you too much and letting you know. Now you got me where you want me and you won't let me go. If my heart was made
Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, our resident young person, Calvin, on the board, coming to you from our studio here at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us, call or text at 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Coming up on the show on Monday, we were talking earlier this week about potential cuts to Medicare and Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
And I had someone reach out who has MS and autism and is on Medicare and is a big advocate for people who might have conditions that are not visible.
Yeah.
Because I think we always assume that people who are receiving this assistance are in some way that we can see.
They're in a wheelchair.
They're in a
on
wheelchair.
crutches.
There's a cane or something.
Mhm.
That's not necessarily the case.
No.
So Dave Wild is going to join us coming up on Monday at 10:33 to talk about his experience on Medicare and Medicaid and why it is important and what this does for folks. In hour number 2, fingers crossed, Beyond the Cheese.
Oh my gosh.
We've had a couple hiccups the last couple of times. It might be cursed. We're
because
not
we're not
sure.
wearing our hats while we're doing
That
it.
maybe that's what it
we
is.
need to wear our hats, folks.
We're going to be talking to someone from J. Henry and Sons, which is in Dane County.
What do they do?
They make bourbon, baby.
We're getting drunk, guys.
That's on Monday. We'd like to do Beyond the Cheese, a chance to highlight businesses, industries in Wisconsin that are not within dairy.
And there may or may, depending on if the thing happens, might have a giveaway.
There could. Oh, there's it's called a tease.
Tease, baby.
So join us Monday after 11 o'clock and cross your fingers because we've had a couple snafus the last. It's gonna work. It's gonna go off this time.
I'm feeling nothing but joy and positivity, everybody.
11:54, just about Calvin. That means it is time for.
This shouldn't be a thing.
Today it is the Bite Me edition. If you ever have a thing you think should not be, send it into Greg and me, Jane Says, at civicmedia.us. This from sbnation.com. Headline reads from James Dater with the byline, German soccer match canceled after child bites referee's testicle.
Just one?
That's what it says.
That's some aim.
A story out of Germany so unbelievable we didn't think it was real. Except the fact that soccer has a way of continually churning out some of the strangest moments in sports. Over the weekend, a soccer match between two teams in Germany had to be canceled after a small child on the field ran up to referee Stefan Kahler and bit his testicle, causing enough pain he was unable to continue. The incident occurred while Kahler was doing his typical pregame ID check of the players, which is apparently a common thing.
He hadn't even done anything to make someone mad yet.
Quote, while I was checking the player's ID, a small child was doing warm-up exercises along the players. He came closer and closer to me, then suddenly, to my complete surprise, gave me a sharp bite in my left testicle, unquote.
Oh, it's the tiny child put the teeth down and chomp on my bubble. Ah!
Kahler went on to say he couldn't start the game because of the pain and that the match would have to be rescheduled for a later date. These are not my words. This is from this article. It's unclear if Kahler has the balls to try and officiate it a second time.
I would remember this moment every time a man says that a woman gets too emotional or anything. I'm like, oh, you got the thing chomped on and you can't work at all today? You got to call in sick? Please.
There's no word why the child, who is reportedly a fan of one of the teams, has been trained to bite testicles like a police dog. This is its own segment. This shouldn't be a thing.
This so shouldn't be a thing.
It so should not be a thing. You can always download this just as a special podcast. Tisbats, that is.
Go to civicmedia.us and go to shows. Tap in the little things that this shouldn't be a thing. Oh my God, this is amazing. I need to know more, but I hope there's follow up because why? Why, child? Why?
Well, we'll see. We'll do some research and see what we can find out.
I'm not reaching for nothing.
If you got soccer matches this weekend, be careful out there.
Yeah.
That wraps up today's episode of
This Shouldn't Be a Thing.
Thank you, Greg and Calvin, and all of our engineers. Without you, absolutely nothing works. And thank you most of all for calling and for texting and for listening. It really does mean the world. I hope you find some joy over the weekend, even if it's just a little bit, and you have the chance to share it. Keep it right here. News is coming up next, followed by Todd Alba, Maggie Dawn, Dom Salvia, Pete Schwaba from 6 to 8 p.m. We are the Civic Media Radio Network. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.